Ryan Reynolds is now caught talking about staring at a stranger who was feeding their baby.
I just kept on staring and staring and staring, and then I just kind of got locked into that like a time warp.
Ryan Reynolds just got publicly scorched by his own wife, Blake Lively, after a sexual harassment victim accused him of destroying her life. What started as Blake's crusade against injustice has officially collapsed into chaos.
And it sounds so bad given Blake's complaint now. I can't even.
Blake's already had a tough time getting the public to rally behind her harassment claims, but now her husband is out here turning the entire situation into a punchline. Staring down breastfeeding women and calling it funny? Not exactly ally behavior.
This isn't a funny joke if you find it so sensitive when it happens to your wife. It's not funny, Ryan. This whole thing was nuts. Nothing Blake's accusing Justin of was even that bad.
Here's why this scandal is blowing up in Blake's face. Her entire lawsuit against Justin Baldoni hinges on one core allegation, that he sexually harassed her in multiple, deeply invasive ways.
One about, he burst in on me uninvited when I was breastfeeding my child. She says we should run lines together. He's like, anytime. And she's like, come on over. I'm breastfeeding the baby in the trailer, but come on over.
And one of those moments, according to Blake, was Baldoni walking into her trailer while she was breastfeeding. She described it as humiliating, violating, and traumatic. A moment that made her feel unsafe on set. A moment so serious, her husband, Ryan Reynolds, reportedly launched into full protector mode.
Invited him in, and a lot of women are comfortable having someone around when they breastfeed, so it's not so weird, especially out in Hollywood, for him to assume, yeah, I guess she's fine with this because she did let him in. Ryan Reynolds comes off terribly.
He came for Baldoni, loudly and aggressively, both online and behind the scenes, condemning him for violating a woman's private space, demanding accountability, making it clear no man should ever intrude on a woman's dignity like that.
Me staring, and I didn't know what the appropriate facial expression was for that, so I just kept on staring and staring and staring, and then I just kind of got locked into that like a time warp.
Except, guess who's done the exact same thing? Ryan Reynolds. And he didn't just do it, he bragged about it on national television, turned it into a bit, laughed it off like it was some sitcom B-plot.
That video is a response to a question a fan had asked Ryan Reynolds, asking, if you had a time machine, which historical event would you like to go back in time to witness?
This isn't hearsay. This isn't some murky tabloid rumor. Ryan Reynolds openly admitted to staring at a breastfeeding mother in a hotel lobby for minutes, not seconds, minutes. He wasn't just passing by. He lingered.
Reynolds can go do this as the time event he wants to go back and revisit when he stared at a stranger doing the same.
This wasn't a harmless glance. He locked eyes, made prolonged eye contact with a woman who was fully covered, quietly feeding her child. She sat there confused and visibly uncomfortable, wondering why this strange man wouldn't stop staring.
Sue. Yeah, she says that's sexual harassment. Pick one. Would you like this woman to come back in time and sue you now?
And how did Ryan handle this? He told the story like it was stand-up material, cracked jokes about how awkward he felt, smirked through it, never once acknowledging that what he did is literally the behavior his wife is suing someone else over.
Or is your wife being ridiculous? Tell us which one is fact.
Let's talk about the sheer hypocrisy. Blake Lively, who's built her public persona around being a so-called champion for women, launched a full-blown lawsuit over something as vague as eye contact. She dragged Justin Baldoni's name through the dirt for something that, by her own definition, her husband should be criminally liable for. And Ryan? He stood by her, nodding along, playing the role of the supportive feminist husband, all while knowing full well he'd done worse, and joked about it.
Ryan Reynolds, one of the things he allegedly exploded on Justin Baldoni over was alleged fat shaming of Blake, because I guess when she was shooting this movie, she was postpartum.
But of course, Blake would never call what Ryan did harassment. That would require holding her own husband to the same standard she demands from the rest of the world. And that's just not how the Lively Reynolds empire works. They write the rules, they break the rules, and when caught, they pretend it's all a misunderstanding. They're the moral police until they're the ones getting pulled over.
Blake Lively mad at James Heath for looking at her and not staring at her in the eyes, directly at her while she was blank.
And it gets darker. Blake's accusations become downright absurd when you compare them to Ryan's behavior. She didn't just accuse Baldoni. She went after another man, Jamie Heath, for the crime of looking at her while she was pumping milk. That's it. No touch, no comment, no physical proximity, just eye contact.
Getting ready to feed her baby. All this is the complaint that was made, which she later says, I don't think you were trying to cop a look, but whatever. This whole complaint about he was there uncomfortably while she was pumping, it's insane.
There was no inappropriate remark, no violation of space, just a glance in her direction, and suddenly she was painting him as some kind of predator. That was enough for her to escalate the narrative, to feed the outrage machine, to demand sympathy, and cast herself as a woman under siege.
It's insane, but now Ryan Reynolds can go do this as the Time event. He wants to go back and revisit when he stared at a stranger doing the same thing.
Naturally, media critics started to clock the contradictions. Film columnist Elric, never one to pull punches, called out the absurdity of the lawsuit, openly mocking the idea that mere eye contact could be used as evidence in a harassment case. And really, who could blame him?
While Lively is having body makeup removed, she was not topless as she claimed in her complaint. She was either nursing or pumping while fully clothed. Lively asked Heath to face the wall while they determined a time to meet with the other producers who were standing just outside the...
Because if that's the new legal standard, if a man glancing at a breastfeeding woman is grounds for a public reckoning, then shouldn't Ryan Reynolds be on trial too? Shouldn't he be held accountable for humiliating a stranger in public and then laughing about it on national television? Of course not. Because this was never about safety or truth or boundaries. It was about leverage, about controlling the narrative, about using outrage as a PR weapon. And now, it's all starting to implode.
On June 1st, 2023, Lively accuses Heath of making eye contact with her while she had asked him to face the wall.
Let's talk about Ryan Reynolds' hypocrisy for a minute, because if you think that breastfeeding incident was just an isolated misstep, think again. This isn't a one-off, it's a pattern. Ryan has built his entire brand on being the clever, self-aware funny guy. But scratch the surface and the charm fades fast. A lot of those old jokes, they don't age well. In fact, many of them cross lines that today would get anyone else canceled on sight.
To get that woman some fucking compensation. It's okay when you do it. It's a problem when other people do it. Interesting. You just stood there and stared because you didn't know what to do. You're a grown man. You're a married man. You're a father. You've seen a woman breastfeeding before. Why were you staring at this woman?
His career is riddled with moments where he's made women visibly uncomfortable, pushed boundaries under the guise of humor, and skated by untouched because, well, he was just being funny. But when another man does it, suddenly it's a federal offense. That's the double standard, and people are catching on. The internet has finally stopped laughing, and they're asking the real questions. Why do Blake and Ryan get to cherry pick what's offensive and what's just a joke? Why do they only cry foul when it benefits them?
Your wife is saying she asked somebody to look at the wall because she was pumping or nursing or whatever.
For years, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds played Hollywood's golden couple, box office royalty and PR darlings. They weren't just stars, they were untouchable. But now that image is crumbling. The same actors, influencers, and media figures who once gushed over their every move are suddenly backing away, and not quietly. The power circle that once protected them, it's collapsing in real time.
This isn't a funny joke if you find it so sensitive when it happens to your wife. It's not funny, Ryan.
But she wants to sue. Yeah, she says that's sexual harassment.
And the biggest red flag? Taylor Swift. For years, Blake and Taylor were joined at the hip, celebrating holidays together, name-dropping each other in interviews, playing up the unbreakable friendship for the cameras. But not anymore. Taylor isn't just going quiet. She's gone invisible. No support, no posts, no subtle solidarity, just silence. The kind of silence that says, "Don't drag me into this mess."
Ryan Reynolds comes off terribly. He had them over to their penthouse in New York, and Taylor Swift was believed to be there, according to this latest complaint.
Then came the real shocker. According to the Daily Mail, Justin Baldoni's legal team is preparing to subpoena Taylor Swift. Why? Because Blake, behind the scenes, was allegedly name-dropping Taylor in conversations with studio execs, pressuring people, leveraging the Swift brand to push her agenda. Taylor apparently had no idea, and now she's not just distancing herself, she's protecting herself. Because even Hollywood's most loyal friends won't go down with a sinking ship.
Blake personally, with Ryan's help, rewrote scenes, again, not within the purview of an actress. And then after that, they have text messages in which Blake tells Justin, this is in the latest lawsuit, I know you've never watched Game of Thrones, but when you get around to watching it, you'll realize I'm Khaleesi.
The fallout was immediate. News that Blake Lively had allegedly used her friendship with Taylor Swift to bolster her legal case sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Was Blake exploiting Taylor's name to score sympathy points? And, perhaps more, crucially, did Taylor even know? According to TMZ, absolutely not. Sources say Swift was completely blindsided and reportedly furious when she discovered her name was being tossed around in legal briefings she had no part in.
Before this whole thing. I mean, who the hell is he? I guess he's in some small thing I never saw. But she's saying, F with me and we'll crush you. My dragons and I, the biggest movie star, one of them in the planet, the biggest pop star in the planet, and I will hurt you unless I get my way. So
this wasn't some harmless name drop. It was a calculated play, one that dragged Taylor Swift into a scandal she never signed up for. And Taylor's team didn't take it lightly. Instead of rushing to Blake's defense, they did the exact opposite. Nothing. Total PR silence. For a woman who's known for scripting every public move with surgical precision, that silence said everything. Swift was officially out.
And now he's going full Johnny Depp on her to show that she was the bully, she was the one harassing him, and this guy who had, comparatively very little power was forced now to come out and tell the truth about Blake Lively.
No Instagram posts, no supportive tweets, no friendly quotes to the press. Swift's PR machine, usually louder than a stadium tour, went dark. It was a clear signal. You're on your own, Blake. And Swift wasn't the only one bailing. Blake's Own It Ends With Us co-star Brandon Sklenar also kept his distance. When asked about the lawsuit, he dodged, deflected, and refused to publicly support her. Silence again, but this time from someone who'd actually been there.